Ubisoft invited me to play 4 more hours of Watch Dogs Legion, and I'm happy to admit that I really enjoyed it this time around. When I first played the game back in July, I flat out gave it a negative review and went so far as to say that I didn't plan to play the game on release. I was kind of shocked that Ubisoft extended another invitation, but I'm glad they did because after another 4 hours of Legion, my perspective has changed completely to the point that I absolutely plan to play the game when it comes out in 3 weeks. I'm sure you're wondering how exactly could my mind have been changed this much, and my hope is that the preview will explain why. I'll admit I went into the first play session with the wrong expectations. I hadn't played Watch Dogs 2 since it came out 4 years ago, and truthfully, I forgot a lot about what this franchise is and what to expect. After this second session, I feel like I get it. I understand what Watch Dogs Legion is going for, and after a total of 8 hours of playtime, I'm 100% on board to play on launch. Big thanks once again to Ubisoft for the opportunity to preview Watch Dogs Legion once again. Before we dive into the specifics, here is what I got to play. I completed 3 to 4 main missions, which represented one full story arc, at least from what I could tell, and then I started another arc. Then I completed several recruitment missions for DedSec, adding a professional hitman, transient, drone racer, and spy to my roster of operatives. Then I liberated one of the 7 boroughs. The entire world was completely open from the start with no invisible walls or barriers that prevented access. So I was free to explore and do whatever I want as I pleased. I enjoyed the variety of activities and change of pace between the more set-piece heavy main missions to the more chill open world objectives. The point is, there's plenty to do in this world, plenty to explore, and it felt like I had barely scratched the surface. On to the main story. I appreciated the narrative a lot more this time. Where the first preview started from the very beginning of the game, this time I started a few hours in. I won't go into details because I don't want to spoil anything, but it revolves around finding out who is behind this zero-day terrorist attack and who framed DedSec. I played an entire story arc investigating Clan Kelly, then started another arc which had me make contact with a potential ally group. While the first few hours did hook me when I played back in July, the next several that I just played do a lot more to get the ball rolling. And once it was, I found myself caring about DedSec and the story. I realized all my recruits are working together towards the same goal, and that was compelling to me. Without spoiling details, I'll say the Clan Kelly arc reminds me of what the previous games did with their villains. Mary Kelly and her underground gang are involved in some very disturbing, very shocking things. My jaw dropped several times, and I think it will shock you too. I keep saying that I played an arc because I hit what felt like a progression wall. The game told me I needed to either wait or investigate the other enemy factions in order to proceed. I could be wrong here, it could just be a timing thing, like wait 24 hours in the game in order to progress. But it seems like you'll get to tackle these arcs in whatever order that you want. But you'll have to complete, a certain amount of arcs in order to progress the overall story. And to be clear, I didn't have any problem with this. It does make sense within the context of the game. I think similar to Watch Dogs 2, the main story will be my favorite part of this experience. And after this session, I can't wait to see how it plays out. In order to recruit new operators, you'll need to do recruitment missions. Like I said, I managed to find 4 more operators in my session, each of them with their own unique skills. The game will automatically identify high-quality recruits for you to find, and they're kind of presented in the forms of traditional missions. Bagley will send you the location on the map, but you can also just walk up to any NPC, and I mean any of them, talk to them, and start the recruitment mission for that NPC on your own. Most of these recruitment missions are single objective activities, but some recruits have a negative opinion of DedSec and require you to complete an additional objective through a deep profile in order to curry favor with them. Each of the operators I recruited offered unique backstories with objectives that sent me to different corners of the map. And these held up when I played, but I'm curious how long it will be before I run into repeat missions and repeat stories because they do feel procedurally generated. In any case, finding recruits feeds into the play as anyone system, which is what really shines in this game. And we'll talk more about that in a bit. From the very start, the map of London is carved into 7 boroughs, each offering a set of objectives required to liberate them from control. The reward is a unique operator and an increased opinion of DedSec, which makes it easier to recruit other operators in the area. The objectives are similar to what you're doing in the main missions and side missions, but all of them feed into what Ubi calls an exotic mission. And the one I got to play was for the city of Westminster. I had to guide my spider bot through the heart of Big Ben in order to shut down Albion's propaganda system in the district. It felt like a super unique set piece, and that's something that I expect to experience with every single district in the game. And I appreciated that it made it easier to recruit other operators within the district. It makes perfect sense. Now that there's no propaganda system, the opinion of DedSec is higher than it would have been otherwise. Plus, I got to unlock the Spy, which had crazy abilities like a car that shoots missiles and a silenced pistol. Like, this guy was an absolute machine in missions. During my first play session, I had what felt like a disconnect with the tone, but not this time. Watch Dogs Legion is a very light and playful game. Your AI companion, Bagley, is constantly hurling one-liners into your ear. He interacts with every single operator that you play as, no matter how different their lines are. He's as much a main character as any of the recruits you'll control throughout your playthrough. He'll be charming for some people and definitely annoying to others, but I found myself liking him. Like I mentioned in the story section, there's a lot of crazy shit going on in this world, but it never feels dark and depressing. It has this veneer of satire that makes it feel light. Some people will like that, some will not, but it is something that you have to realize when you're playing the game. You can go up to kiosks and buy ridiculous outfits and masks to customize your character, to hide your identity. Everything is absurd to the point where you're not really concerned about how over the top it is. And honestly, that just matches the tone of Watch Dogs 2. This is a light and fun game, and you will enjoy it if you let yourself. In my first preview, I said that I appreciated the idea of play as anyone. It was a genuinely compelling concept, and I praised Ubi for going down this route. But I definitely did not give it the credit that it deserves. This is the primary way that Legion evolves on the Watch Dogs formula. It's the main event feature for the game. Play as anyone makes all the difference in the world, and it sets this game apart from pretty much any other video game I've ever played. It's insane that you can talk to any single NPC on the street and recruit them. What this play session made me realize is that play as anyone represents the evolution of profiling. Going back to the very first Watch Dogs, you could hack anyone's phone to learn fun things about them or crack their bank accounts for some extra cash. But generally speaking, there wasn't much gameplay motivation for doing that, it was just fun. In Legion, profiling has a very specific purpose. You are actively searching for recruits, as there are what feels like dozens of different archetypes with unique skills. It matters who you decide to recruit, and more than my last play session, I found that they did feel unique from one another. It puts the power in your hands, and you feel the effects of your decisions throughout the rest of the game. It just widens the possibilities, the opportunities. For example, I played as Gary the bartender because he has the unique tough drunk ability, which lets you down a pint in order to take less damage. But he also has the hiccups, which makes him hard to use in stealth. The result is that I used his shotgun to mow down enemies instead of worrying about stealth, and I was rewarded for that. Alternatively, I used Carla the podcaster to infiltrate restricted zones because she can summon a drone at any time and has short hacking cooldowns. I recruited Caleb the drone racer because he has immunity to drones chasing him in vehicles, which makes him great for getaways. Swapping operators to fit the situation feels like a game of tic-tac-toe that I really enjoyed much more this time around. I didn't end up using what I feel like is the most important unique perk, which is uniformed access. This lets you walk around any restricted area that matches your uniform. During my last play session, I criticized this because I defaulted to a single uniform for every mission. But looking back, it made perfect sense because I was using an Albion guard in Albion areas during the Albion arc. Again, it feels like a nitpick that I won't even feel during the main game. And for the other recruits I found, once again, the Spy made stealth missions much easier. His car can cloak itself, like become completely invisible. He takes less damage, he can jam nearby weapons, he's just a machine. The professional hitman can combat roll and execute instant gun takedowns even during combat. But the caveat is that he has prior injuries, so it takes longer for him to recover if he dies. This brings up another layer of the play as anyone system, because your operators, if they are caught, land in jail, or if you die, you go to the hospital. This will lock your operator for a specific amount of time. But the thing is, if you recruit a lawyer, you can get those jailed operators out of jail quickly. And same goes if you have, I believe, like a doctor or a medical kind of operator. You will be able to get your people out of the hospital more quickly. Once you see all of the elements of play as anyone, you realize how much this system complements every single part of the game. The synergy here is insane, and it really steals the show for me. In my first preview, I criticized play as anyone's impact on the story. I said that none of the operators felt unique to the point that they all blended together as one person. This time, I recognize that the protagonist in Legion is a collective group. It's DedSec. The focus is not on any individual operator or their backstory, it's on the whole operation. It's all of my recruits that I spent the time to track down and recruit towards the cause together as one. It's hard for me to think of another game that's approached its story from this exact angle. It feels unique and novel. I also said that each operator says the same lines in different ways, and while that's still true, it wasn't a problem this time around because, again, I understood that the main character was this group. And the fact, once again, that I am recruiting every single one of these people introduces a level of player agency that, again, it's hard to say you get from most games. You have an impact on the world because you are the one recruiting all of these operators. You get to see them influencing the narrative mission after mission. The narrative follow-through is there, and I started to feel a connection to my recruits. I got to see their faces appear over and over, and knowing their small backstories is seriously special. One complaint I still have is that the facial animations and textures aren't great. Considering this is a video game with what feels like limitless NPCs, all of which are supposed to have unique voices and faces, this is absolutely something that I can forgive. But I think no matter what, you will notice that dialogue feels stiff at times and out of sync. This will be a criticism. I expect a lot of reviewers to point this out, and I look at it as a trade-off for getting something as expansive as play as anyone. At the end of the day, it did not worsen my experience, but I can understand if it's something that will impact yours. Bottom line here though, play as anyone is great. I loved it, and it's going to be the primary reason that I play the game. I need to talk about the environment, the world, because London is absolutely gorgeous. I think I was in way too much of a rush, way too much of a hurry when I first played. This time I drove from each objective and just had a blast taking in what feels like a one-to-one representation of the city. The near-future aesthetic of technology taking over London, the electric cars, the drones buzzing around, there's a lot of personality and sci-fi flavor that worked for me. Also, the atmosphere is so aggressively British that I couldn't help but get immersed in it. There's a set of underground fight club missions where you pummel your opponents into submission. You can go to the pub and play darts or get pissed. Everyone has a colorful accent, and as an American that's never been to London, it's genuinely difficult to understand what anyone is saying. I love when a game goes all in to make you feel like you are where it takes place, and Legion absolutely does this. Another thing that worked much better for me this time around is the gameplay. This is embarrassing to admit, but I think I just sucked and didn't understand the gameplay during my last session. I didn't realize a basic fundamental thing about hacking in this game, that the terminals which require physical access to hack could be accessed via the spider bot. So I was forcing myself to stealth into these restricted areas with my operator instead of getting things done the smart way by hacking cameras, activating spider bots. It was night and day this time around. I had a full grasp over these concepts. Everything worked together. I felt like I was using a Swiss Army knife of hacking tools to complete objectives. I did, however, still notice that gameplay can fall into a pattern. The spider bot, for example, feels like the best tool for every job. But I think you can still keep things fresh by swapping operators. Since you're afforded so much flexibility, that will be where the variety comes from. To say that my experience playing Watch Dogs Legion for the second time was more enjoyable is an extreme understatement. I am just so happy that I enjoyed this game, and the fact that I'll be able to play it in 3 weeks, maybe less if Ubisoft sends out a review code, that gets me even more hyped. I'd love to know, are you guys picking up Legion? I'm planning to play it on console and then grab the free upgrade to next gen when it comes out. Leave your plans in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you're subbed to my channel. Click the bell to turn on live notifications every time I upload a new video. I have several more previews that you don't want to miss out on, so make sure you're subbed if you're not already. Big thanks to my members, Bill, Grass, David, Casey, John, Kamal, Spyro, Tom, Jackie, Level 42, and Matthew. If you want to support me further, click the join button below this video. Starting at $2 a month, you can support me as a creator and unlock cool badges and emojis to use in chat. Check the link in the description below for more information. I'm restricted to just under 20 minutes of gameplay per video, so I figured I'd just let it run for the rest of this. Hope you guys enjoy. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.
We're probably not the only ones after this evidence. You'll have to beat them to it. There's the terminal. We can do the intrusion there. This will trigger a heavy security response.
All clear. Moving on. Moving on. No one's here. Over there.
Need your help, little buddy.
Wet. You.
Junk croc?